We should talk about Super Tuesday and all the things that just got exposed. Some expected, some surprising. Not surprising, Donald Trump continued his domination over the GOP. And while Nikki Haley did win Vermont last night, this morning she dropped out of the race. Though notably, she did not immediately endorse Trump, at least for now, saying that Donald Trump needs to earn her voters. Though it remains to be seen if Donald Trump would do anything like that. Because while Trump can now obviously pivot towards the general election, everything he has said is like, if you support Nikki Haley, we don't want you. I mean, Trump said that anyone that makes a contribution to Birdbrain from this moment forth will be permanently barred from the MAGA camp. We don't want them and will not accept them. Though all of this, as you have places like the New York Times saying there are warning signs for Trump with the votes that happened last night, noting that a majority of Haley's primary voters said they were voting against her opponent more than for her, something they called a sign of anti-Trump motivation that could last until November. And notably, this is she was leading among moderate voters by nearly 2-1. And while for Haley, in a primary, the moderates only make up 20%, in the general election, especially in a state like North Carolina, that could be massive. Though notably, last night we saw that Biden also has a vulnerability, with part of the Democratic base not being fully behind him. As places like Axios have noted, the uncommitted protest vote against Biden has continued, noting that in Michigan's Democratic primary last week, thousands of Arab Americans and young voters cast ballots for uncommitted to protest Biden's pro-Israel policies in the war in Gaza, making up 13% of the electorate. And last night, the protests continued in Minnesota, another key Midwestern state Biden needs to win in November. More than 45,000 Democratic voters, nearly 19% of the vote that night, voted uncommitted rather than for Biden. And again, while we are talking about a small minority of the base, in a general election that will prove massive. And again, so many facets of what we're talking about, it becomes a question of the feelings that people are having today. What does that look like as we get very close to and then in November? Will the voters stay home? Will they vote for someone else? Because there are those that are firm in this stance who have said they'll stay home or do a protest vote in the actual general election because a short-term pain can be a long-term win. And while obviously they are free to have that opinion, you have people pushing back and saying, well, we already saw what a protest vote can do if you look to 2016. You had some Democrats and leftists saying, fuck Hillary Clinton. What's the worst Trump could do? And now for the foreseeable future, we have a very conservative Supreme Court. Roe v. Wade was overturned. Seemingly things that those on the left are not a fan of. So it ended up being short-term loss, long-term loss. But again, that's not to say the disagreements that people have with the candidates are a 1-to-1 to 2016. Though it is very 2016 that we just have two just hugely unpopular candidates running for president. Of course, it wasn't all general election related last night. There's a lot of other stuff at play, but what was really a standout was what happened in California. In the Senate race in California for Dianne Feinstein's old spot, Representative Adam Schiff essentially dragged a dead body across the finish line. Because if you don't know, in California, there is a nonpartisan primary system. It got put into place back in 2010. It was this idea that, hey, maybe we can get more centrist politicians. But instead, it just turned into a political game. Because on the Democratic side, Adam Schiff's main opponent was Katie Porter. And so to fight her off from possibly coming into second place, Schiff's campaign promoted Steve Garvey, a Republican, to get him all that Republican support so he can easily beat him in November. And it worked. Garvey got second place. So obviously, it was a win for Schiff. It may have also exposed that this idea to create a better system might just be just as broken. Though I would say maybe a nonpartisan primary system, I think it could work, but it would need to be ranked choice voting. Otherwise, you kind of just have a different version of the same problem. But hey, that's a situation, and we are another day closer to the 2024 election. Good luck.